Have you ever stepped into the shower in the morning, just trying to start your day like you always do, only to suddenly feel a wave of dizziness? Your knees buckle just a little, and for a moment, you had to grab the wall. Just to stay upright, you brushed it off. Maybe you skipped breakfast. Maybe you got up too fast. But what if that moment wasn't just a coincidence? What if the timing of your shower, something so simple, was putting your life at risk? Every day, thousands of older adults across the country step into their bathrooms, not realizing that their bodies, at that hour, are quietly working against them. Your blood pressure, your hydration levels, your core temperature, even your reaction time, all of it is at its most vulnerable between 4 o'clock and 8 a.m. And yet, this is when so many seniors, out of habit, out of routine, still choose to shower. What most people don't know is that this one everyday activity, done at the wrong time, can lead to falls, heart strain, fainting, and in too many heartbreaking cases, death. But once you understand why, you can change the outcome. Stanley was 75 years old, lived alone in a quiet neighborhood just outside Boston, retired, healthy, active. He loved his morning walks, took his medications like clockwork, and prided himself on being independent. Every day at 6:30 a.m., he took a hot shower, just like he had for decades, until one morning when his daughter Jennifer found him collapsed on the bathroom floor. The cause? Not a heart attack, not a stroke, but a perfect storm of early morning vulnerability that no one ever warned them about. A sudden drop in blood pressure, heat-induced strain on the heart, and not enough time for his body to adjust after waking. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Jennifer said to me, "If anyone, had told us that something as simple as the time of day could change everything, my dad might still be here." This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up before something else does. Because the truth is, showering isn't the problem. But when you do it, and how, matters more than most people realize. So if you're over 70, or love someone who is, the next 25 minutes could quite literally save a life. We're going to uncover the most dangerous time to shower, the science behind it, the hidden risks no one talks about, and the simple, affordable changes you can make today to keep yourself safe, without giving up your independence. So let's begin with the question that almost no one is asking. Why is showering early in the morning so dangerous after 70? For years, Stanley started his day the same way. Up at 6 a.m., a short stretch, a hot shower, then coffee on the porch before the world even stirred. It was a routine he loved, familiar, comforting, until the morning it nearly ended his life. That day wasn't unlike any other. But as Stanley stepped into the shower, something inside his body was already shifting, quietly, invisibly. His blood pressure, which had dipped during sleep, was now surging rapidly in the early morning hours. Doctors call this the morning surge, a natural but potentially dangerous phenomenon that becomes far riskier after age 70. According to Harvard Medical School, between 4 o'clock and 8 a.m., older adults experience the most unstable blood pressure regulation of the entire day. Your heart is waking up. Your blood vessels are still adjusting. And yet, we ask our bodies to handle heat, steam, standing, and sudden movement, all in a slippery, enclosed space. It's a perfect storm. And for many seniors like Stanley, that storm hits fast. Jennifer, his daughter, still remembers the moment she found him. He'd fallen backwards, she said. There was no noise, no warning. He just never came out of the bathroom. The paramedics explained later that the timing alone, combined with the shock of hot water and sudden standing, likely triggered a syncopal event, a sudden drop in blood pressure that caused him to faint, fall, and suffer a fatal head injury. The tragedy: it was preventable. That early morning window, once considered productive time, is no longer your friend after 70. Your body changes, your rhythms shift, and the routines that once served you well may now put you at risk. The biggest mistake: thinking what was once normal is still safe. But knowledge changes everything. So if you or someone you love has been clinging to that early shower routine, out of habit, efficiency, or the idea that it's what I've always done, it's time to rethink what normal really means now. The solution is simple. Start your mornings gently. Let your body wake up before you place it under strain. Shift your shower time to mid-morning, between 10 a.m. and noon, when your blood pressure is more stable and your body is fully awake. Because that small shift in timing, it might be the difference between a safe routine and a life-altering fall. But your blood pressure isn't the only thing working against you in those early hours. Your body's ability to handle temperature, something you've probably never thought twice about, also changes with age. And if you've ever stepped into a warm shower and suddenly felt lightheaded or dizzy, you've already felt the warning signs. Let's talk about why hot water in the morning can be so risky after 70. Albert had always loved a long, hot shower. He was the kind of man who believed that warmth washed away more than just dirt. It soothed his joints, cleared his mind, made him feel alive. Even in his 80s, it was his favorite part of the morning. But one Tuesday, as he stepped out of the shower, something didn't feel right. His heart was racing, his vision blurred, and before he could reach the towel rack, the world around him began to spin. Albert collapsed onto the bathroom floor. It wasn't until later, in a hospital bed hooked to monitors, that he heard the words, "You had a near cardiac event, triggered by temperature shock." He blinked. "A shower almost gave me a heart attack." The doctor nodded. Here's what most people don't realize. As we age, our bodies lose the ability to regulate temperature efficiently. This means the systems that once adjusted seamlessly to heat or cold now respond slower, weaker, and sometimes not at all. And this vulnerability is especially severe in the early morning hours, when your core body temperature is naturally at its lowest point of the day. So when you step into a hot shower, especially right after waking, you're shocking your system. Your blood vessels dilate rapidly. Your heart works harder to adjust. Your blood pressure can plummet without warning. And if you're already slightly dehydrated or medicated, the effect is multiplied. It's not the heat alone. It's the timing plus heat that creates the danger. That's what happened to Albert. His 6 a.m. shower combined with high water temperature and low morning blood pressure created a perfect storm inside his body, and it nearly took his life. He thought hot water was comforting, but after 70, comfort can become stress, and stress on the heart is not something to ignore. So what can you do? Start by adjusting your water temperature to lukewarm, ideally between 95 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't need to bathe in cold water. Just avoid water that makes your skin flush red or steam fill the room. Second, install an anti-scald device or temperature control valve. It's a $20 solution that could save your life, especially if your reflexes are slower and you can't react to sudden bursts of hot water quickly. Third, test the water with your hand before stepping in, and let the water run for a few seconds before entering the shower stall. That simple pause could mean the difference between safety and crisis. Albert now showers around 11 a.m. after a glass of water and a light breakfast. His water is warm, not hot, and the peace of mind he feels, that's worth more than any luxury steam. Because sometimes the routines we cling to the most are the ones we need to adjust, not abandon, but gently reshape to fit the bodies we live in today, not the ones we had 20 years ago. But temperature isn't the only invisible risk in the bathroom. Sometimes the danger begins before the water even turns on, with something so routine, so automatic. You likely do it every morning without a second thought. Taking your medication. Let's talk about what happens when the pills you swallow collide with the steam and strain of an early shower. Patricia had always been careful about her health. She never missed a checkup, walked every afternoon, and took her blood pressure pills the moment she opened her eyes. First thing every day. That's what my doctor said, she told her granddaughter proudly. Then she'd head straight to the bathroom for her 7 a.m. shower, the same routine she'd followed for nearly a decade. Until one morning, she didn't come out. She was found slumped on the floor, barely conscious, dizzy, pale, weak. It wasn't a stroke. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a drop in blood pressure so sharp, so sudden, it had robbed her brain of oxygen for just long enough to bring her to her knees. What happened? It turns out Patricia's blood pressure medication, a common ACE inhibitor called lisinopril, had peaked in her bloodstream right as she stepped into the hot shower. This created what doctors now call the double drop effect. Your medication lowers your blood pressure. A hot shower lowers it even more. And early morning, when blood pressure is already fluctuating, adds a third strike against your system. According to cardiologists at the Mayo Clinic, many seniors unknowingly stack their vulnerabilities by combining medications, heat, and timing, without giving their bodies enough time to recover between each event. And the result? A dizzy spell in the worst place you could ever have one. The shower. Wet floors. Slippery surfaces. No handrails. No soft landings. If you lose consciousness there, even for a second, the risk of severe injury or death rises dramatically. But here's the part no one talks about. This risk isn't about your medication being wrong. It's about your schedule. You may be taking the right pill, at the right dose, but if you're combining it with a hot shower 20 minutes later, your body simply can't keep up. That's what Patricia learned the hard way. Now, she spaces out her morning. She takes her medication at 8 a.m., eats a small breakfast, drinks water, waits, and doesn't shower until around 11 o'clock. By then, her body has adjusted, her blood pressure has stabilized, and her risk has dropped significantly. She didn't need a new prescription. She just needed a new routine. So if you take blood pressure medication, or any medication that affects your heart, hydration, or circulation, never shower within 2 hours of taking it unless your doctor tells you otherwise. Better yet, talk to your doctor about your full morning routine. You might discover that a small change in timing could prevent a big emergency, because the medications that keep you alive when taken at the wrong moment can also be the ones that make you most vulnerable. And if that moment happens to be inside a slippery, dimly lit bathroom, well, that brings us to the next danger, one that has nothing to do with your heart and everything to do with your eyes. Let's talk about how vision and lighting in the early morning can turn even the most familiar bathroom into a dangerous trap. Gregory had lived in the same home for over 40 years. He knew every corner, every creak in the floor, every light switch, even in the dark. Or so he thought. One chilly morning, just before sunrise, he woke up and decided to shower early to get a head start on the day. He didn't turn on the overhead light. He didn't want to wake his wife. He'd done it 1,000 times before. But that morning, he didn't see the thin puddle of water left over from a dripping faucet. And as he stepped into the shower stall, his foot slid out from under him. The fall shattered his hip. But worse than the pain was the aftermath. Weeks in rehab, months of lost independence, and all from something he couldn't see in time. You see, as we age, our eyes change in subtle but serious ways. After 70, our ability to adjust to low light, called contrast sensitivity, drops by more than 60%. In dim conditions, shadows deepen, details fade, and depth perception becomes unreliable. The bathroom, with its smooth surfaces, water reflections, and sharp edges, becomes a silent hazard. And it's not just darkness. It's the timing. Most falls in the bathroom happen in the early hours of the morning, when both lighting and alertness are at their lowest. We move through the space on memory, not vision. We think we know what's around us, but our eyes, at that hour, can no longer keep up. So what can you do? Start with light. Install motion-activated night lights in your bedroom, hallway, and bathroom. Use warm white light, not harsh blue, to avoid sleep disruption. Make sure the light comes on before you enter the bathroom, not after. Next, rethink your bathroom setup. Use non-slip mats with bright, contrasting colors, not beige on beige. Add a few high-contrast decals to the shower floor so you can see the edge clearly, even in steam or dim light. And don't assume your eyes are fine just because you see well with your glasses. Vision at night, especially peripheral and contrast vision, changes drastically with age, even with perfect prescriptions. Gregory now keeps a soft glow nightlight plugged year-round. He also installed a grab bar by the shower, something he once said he'd never need. Now he says it's his favorite feature in the house, because seeing clearly, especially first thing in the morning, isn't just about vision. It's about safety, stability, and staying independent. And while light can reveal what's beneath your feet, there's something else just as dangerous that you can't see at all. What's missing inside your body when you wake up? Let's talk about dehydration, the invisible risk you carry into every morning shower. Leonard never thought much about water. He drank when he was thirsty, kept a glass by his recliner, and figured he was doing just fine. "I'm not running marathons," he joked. "I don't need a gallon a day." But almost every morning, he felt a little dizzy, especially after getting out of bed and heading straight for the shower. Sometimes it passed quickly. Other days, it lingered. One morning, the dizziness didn't pass. He stepped into the shower, reached up to adjust the water, and everything went black. When he came to, he was lying on the cold tile floor, confused and sore, water still running beside him. At the ER, the doctor asked just one question. "Leonard, did you drink any water before you got in the shower?" He hadn't, and that, it turns out, was the problem. You see, during the night, your body loses fluids, through your breath, through sweat, even through dry air in the room. By the time you wake up, you're in a mildly dehydrated state, even if you don't feel it. And as we age, our sense of thirst becomes less reliable, making it easy to underestimate how dry our system really is. Now at a hot shower, standing in heat causes blood vessels to dilate. Blood begins to pool in the legs. Less blood reaches the brain, and without enough fluid in your system to compensate, your blood pressure drops fast. This is called orthostatic hypotension, and it's one of the leading causes of morning fainting in seniors. The scary part? It often gives no warning, no headache, no thirst, just one bad moment. That's what Leonard experienced. After that day, his doctor gave him a simple instruction. Drink a full glass of water before you shower. Every single time. Not coffee, not juice. Water, room temperature or slightly warm. Nothing too cold that shocks the system. So now, Leonard keeps a water bottle on his nightstand. He drinks 8 ounces before even thinking about turning on the shower. And since making that change, no more dizziness, no more close calls. Just a steadier, safer start to the day. It's a simple fix, but one that most people overlook, simply because no one ever told them. So if you're waking up and heading straight into a warm shower without hydrating first, you're putting your brain, your heart, and your safety at risk. Drink the water. Give your body what it needs to function fully, because dehydration doesn't feel dramatic until it is. And if something goes wrong in that shower, there's one more factor that could decide whether or not you survive: how long it takes someone to find you. Let's talk about what happens after a fall, and why early morning accidents are often the most deadly of all. Beatrice was always up before the sun. She liked the stillness of the early hours, the quiet hum of the world not quite awake. At 73, living alone since her husband passed, she found comfort in her routines. And every morning at 5 a.m., she'd step into the shower, just as she had for years. Until one morning, she didn't step out. Beatrice slipped, hit her head, and lay unconscious on the cold bathroom floor, with the water still running for nearly 4 hours. Her daughter found her when she stopped by mid-morning, soaked, shivering, unresponsive. Beatrice survived, but barely. The doctor said that if she had been found an hour later, the outcome might have been very different. This isn't an uncommon story. In fact, according to emergency medicine reports, seniors who fall during early morning hours are 40% less likely to be found in time to prevent serious complications, or even death. Why? Because the house is quiet. Neighbors are still asleep. Family hasn't called yet. And if you live alone, there's often no one to check until it's too late. The bathroom, already the most dangerous room in the house for falls, becomes exponentially more deadly when no one is awake to hear you call for help. And the risks don't end with the fall itself. There's hypothermia from lying wet and uncovered on a tile floor. There's delayed access to emergency treatment, which can make injuries worse. There's even psychological trauma from the helplessness of being unable to move, call, or be heard. But the good news is this: you don't have to live in fear. You just need to plan for support, not just safety. So what can you do? Start with technology. Install a waterproof emergency call button in your bathroom, one you can reach from the floor. It doesn't have to be expensive. Some cost less than a dinner out. But in a crisis, that button becomes a lifeline. Next, create a morning check-in system. A daily call with a neighbor, friend, or family member. Even a quick good morning text. That one touch point can drastically reduce how long you go unnoticed in an emergency. And most importantly, reconsider when you shower. If no one's awake at 5:30 a.m. to check on you, maybe that's not the safest time to be in a slippery, steamy room. Beatrice now showers at 11 a.m. Her daughter texts her at noon. She keeps a waterproof emergency button right next to the grab bar, and she sleeps better at night, knowing that her mornings are no longer filled with silent risk. Because the question isn't just, what if I fall? It's, how long would it take for someone to find me if I did? The answer to that question could mean everything, but there's still one more risk to cover, one that most people never expect. Because even if your blood pressure is stable, your water is lukewarm, and your lights are bright, you could still be in danger if your mind isn't fully awake yet. Let's talk about how your brain works differently in the early morning, and why it matters more than you think when stepping into the shower. Franklin prided himself on being sharp. At 79, he still did the crossword every morning, read 2 newspapers, and helped his grandson with algebra homework. He wasn't forgetful. He wasn't confused. So when the doctors explained what had happened, he was stunned. One morning, around 6 a.m., Franklin stepped into the shower like usual. But just a minute later, the water suddenly turned scalding hot, and he didn't react. By the time he moved to turn off the tap, the burns were already severe. 2nd degree, across his back and arms. I would have noticed it instantly if it were later in the day, he said quietly. But at that hour, my brain just didn't catch it in time. What happened to Franklin wasn't about age. It was about timing. According to neurologists at Stanford, adults over 65 experience up to a 30% decline in cognitive function between 4 o'clock and 8 a.m. That includes slower reaction time, reduced decision-making speed, diminished problem-solving ability, and even impaired awareness of pain and danger. In other words, your brain just isn't fully online yet. And when you step into a slippery, steaming shower while your mind is still foggy, you're asking it to make quick decisions with slower reflexes. It's not about being forgetful. It's about circadian rhythm, the natural sleep-wake cycle that affects alertness. And for seniors, that alertness takes longer to fully return after sleep. That's why things that seem obvious at noon, like spotting a puddle, noticing a water temperature change, or catching yourself during a slip, can be completely missed at 6 a.m. So what can you do? First, avoid showering during your cognitive low point. Aim for 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., when your brain is most alert. Second, install a temperature-limiting valve in your showerhead to prevent accidental scalding. Third, give yourself time to fully wake up before starting your morning routine. Stretch, drink water, move slowly. Let your body and your brain catch up. Franklin now showers after breakfast. He's alert, he's steady, and he hasn't had a single mishap since. Because safety in the bathroom isn't just about your feet. It's also about your mind. And when your brain isn't fully awake, it can't protect your body, no matter how healthy or careful you are. So now that you've seen the 7 silent risks that make morning showers so dangerous after 70, from blood pressure to brain fog, the question becomes, what can you do differently, starting tomorrow, to protect yourself? Let's bring everything together in one simple, life-saving routine. You've made it this far, and maybe, like many others, you're starting to see your daily routine in a new light. Not with fear, but with understanding. Because the truth is, showering itself isn't the problem. It's the timing, the conditions, and the small assumptions that quietly pile up over time, until one day, they don't feel so small anymore. But here's the good news. You don't need to stop showering. You just need to shower smarter. So what does that look like? It looks like this. Start your day slowly. Give your body 60 to 90 minutes to fully wake up before stepping into the shower. Drink a full glass of water right after waking to rehydrate and stabilize your blood pressure. Avoid showering within 2 hours of taking blood pressure medication, unless specifically advised otherwise by your doctor. Keep your shower water lukewarm, around 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and install an anti-scald valve if possible. Use motion-activated nightlights, bright-colored non-slip mats, and grab bars to make your bathroom safer. Shower between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when your blood pressure, brain function, and vision are all at their best. If you live alone, set up a check-in system or emergency button. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You see, safety isn't about fear. It's about freedom. Because when you know your body, when you understand how aging changes the way your heart, brain, and balance work, you stop walking through your days, hoping nothing goes wrong, and start walking through them, knowing you've done what you can to keep everything right. That's the kind of strength that lasts. The kind that protects not just your body, but your independence and your peace of mind. And maybe, just maybe, that simple shift in your routine, starting tomorrow morning, could be the change that saves your life, or the life of someone you love. So let me ask you, what time do you usually shower? And after what you've learned today, will you change it? Tell me in the comments below. And if this video opened your eyes, if it made you pause, or think of someone who needs to hear it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone you care about. You never know whose tomorrow you might protect by starting that conversation today. Subscribe if you'd like more honest, research-backed advice to help you age with strength, clarity, and confidence. Because getting older doesn't mean getting weaker. It just means learning how to move through life a little smarter, and with the quiet courage to say, I still get to choose how I live. Let's keep choosing well together. Did you know your morning shower could be quietly putting you at risk, especially after 70? Recent studies show that early morning showers between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. increase the risk of fainting, dangerous blood pressure drops, and falls, particularly in older adults. Why? Because your body, at that hour, is still waking up. Your blood vessels, your brain, even your ability to regulate temperature, all are less stable than they are later in the day. This video breaks down 7 hidden dangers most people never consider, from dehydration and medication timing to poor lighting and slowed reflexes. Each one by itself may seem small, but combined, they create what doctors call a perfect storm. The good news? These risks are 100% preventable with a few simple changes. A glass of water before your shower, better lighting, a shift in timing, and above all, awareness. Personally, I believe that growing older doesn't mean we have to accept more danger, just that we need to adapt smarter. The routines that served us for decades might now need adjusting, and that's not weakness. That's wisdom. So if this video gave you something to think about, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with a friend, a parent, or a neighbor, because one small change in your morning routine could make all the difference. Not just in how you feel, but in how long you stay strong, independent, and safe.